One of the biggest comedy stars of the 80s and 90s vanished from Hollywood at the height of his career, trading blockbuster paychecks for something far more precious. While fans waited decades for his return, Rick Moranis was quietly building a different kind of legacy in the shadows of New York City. This is what Rick Moranis is doing now, after giving up fame. Peak of fame. In the early 1980s, a bespectacled Canadian with a knack for playing lovable nerds was about to become one of Hollywood's most unlikely superstars. Rick Moranis had already made a name for himself on the sketch comedy show Second City Television, where he created memorable characters and showcased his talent for celebrity impressions, but nothing could have prepared audiences for the comedic phenomenon he was about to become. Moranis first gained widespread attention in America with his role in Strange Brew in 1983. A film based on his popular SCTV characters Bob and Doug McKenzie, the beer-loving Canadian brothers he created with comedy partner Dave Thomas. The characters had become such a cultural sensation that they recorded a Grammy-nominated album and turned what started as a simple sketch into a full-length feature film that Moranis co-wrote and co-directed. But it was his role as the neurotic accountant, Louis Tully, in Ghostbusters in 1984 that truly launched Moranis into the stratosphere of Hollywood stardom. Playing opposite comedy legends like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, Moranis brought his unique brand of nervous energy and perfect comedic timing to the supernatural blockbuster. His portrayal of the bumbling neighbor who gets possessed by a demonic entity was both hilarious and endearing, proving that Moranis could hold his own alongside some of the biggest names in comedy. The success of Ghostbusters opened doors that led to an incredible run of hit films throughout the decade. In Little Shop of Horrors, in 1986, Moranis showcased his singing abilities as the meek flower shop employee Seymour, delivering memorable musical numbers while falling in love with a carnivorous plant. His performance demonstrated remarkable range, combining his natural comedic instincts with genuine vocal talent and dramatic depth. 1987 brought Spaceballs, where Moranis created one of cinema's most beloved parody villains as Dark Helmet, the bumbling Darth Vader knockoff with an oversized helmet and a penchant for silly catchphrases. His ability to make audiences laugh while spoofing one of film's most iconic villains showed his gift for finding humor in any role. The peak of Moranis's commercial success came with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989, where he played Wayne Selinsky, the absent-minded inventor whose shrinking machine accidentally miniaturizes his children. The film became a massive hit, earning over $200 million worldwide and spawning a successful franchise. Moranis's portrayal of the well-meaning but bumbling scientist father made him a household name and established him as the go-to actor for family-friendly comedies. By the early 1990s, Moranis was commanding top dollar for his roles, appearing in major productions like Parenthood alongside Steve Martin and later starring in The Flintstones, which grossed over $340 million worldwide. His unique appeal lay in his ability to make audiences root for the underdog while delivering consistently hilarious performances that never felt mean-spirited or cynical. What made Moranis so special was his gift for playing characters who were simultaneously incompetent and lovable, creating a brand of wholesome humor that appealed to both children and adults across multiple generations. The breaking point. On February 4, 1991, just one day before what would have been her 35th birthday, Rick Moranis's world came crashing down when his wife Ann Belsky lost her battle with breast cancer. The inscription on her headstone would later read, "Brought joy to life and special love to her husband and children." But in that moment, Moranis was left facing an unimaginable reality as a newly widowed father of two young children, Mitchell and Rachel. Ann Belsky had been more than just Moranis's wife. She was a talented costume designer who understood the entertainment industry and had been his partner through his rise to stardom. Their marriage in 1986 had come during the height of his career success, and together they had built a life that balanced his demanding Hollywood schedule with their growing family. Her diagnosis and subsequent battle with cancer had already begun to shift Moranis's priorities, but her death created a fundamental change that would alter the course of his entire life. In the immediate aftermath of this devastating loss, Moranis attempted to continue his career while processing his grief and caring for his children. He had been cast in the film City Slickers alongside Billy Crystal. But when Anne's health deteriorated just before filming was scheduled to begin, he made the difficult decision to withdraw from the project. Daniel Stern ultimately took over the role, marking the first time that Moranis had turned down a major Hollywood opportunity for personal reasons. The early 1990s became a period of internal struggle as Moranis tried to maintain his professional commitments while being present for Mitchell and Rachel during the most difficult time in their young lives. He continued working on projects like Honey, I Blew Up the Kid in 1992 and The Flintstones in 1994, but each film required extensive travel and long periods away from home that became increasingly difficult to justify. The breaking point came when Moranis was offered another film role that would have required him to travel out of town during the beginning of the school year. For the first time in his career, he found himself asking a question that had never occurred to him before. Was this movie worth missing his children's first days of school? The answer came clearly and definitively. It wasn't. As Moranis later explained to USA Today, "I'm a single parent, and I just found that it was too difficult to manage to raise my kids and to do the traveling involved in making movies. So I took a little bit of a break. And the little bit of a break turned into a longer break, and then I found that I really didn't miss it." This moment of clarity marked the beginning of what would become one of Hollywood's most remarkable and voluntary exits from fame, as Moranis began to realize that the life he had built as a movie star was incompatible with the life he wanted to build as a father. The Great Escape. Rick Moranis's departure from Hollywood wasn't the dramatic headline-grabbing exit that many celebrity retirements become, but rather a carefully orchestrated fade that unfolded over several years as he gradually shifted his priorities from blockbuster films to bedtime stories. After declining the City Slickers role due to his wife's illness, Moranis found himself in the unusual position of being one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, while simultaneously questioning whether he wanted to continue being a movie star at all. The mid-1990s marked Moranis's transition period, during which he fulfilled his existing contractual obligations while slowly closing the door on new opportunities. Little Giants in 1994 saw him playing football coach Danny O'Shea in what would become one of his final starring roles, followed by his memorable turn as Barney Rubble in The Flintstones, also in 1994. The live-action adaptation of the classic cartoon became a massive commercial success, earning over $340 million worldwide and proving that Moranis still had the ability to draw audiences to theaters. However, behind the scenes, Moranis was already beginning to turn down more projects than he accepted, a dramatic shift for an actor who had previously been known for his prolific output. His final theatrical film appearance came with Big Bully in 1996, a poorly received comedy that earned him the distinction of appearing in what would become the worst-reviewed movie of his career, with a 0% rating from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. The symbolic end of Moranis's Hollywood career came in 1997 with Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, a direct-to-video sequel that marked Disney's first-ever live-action film to bypass theaters entirely. Despite selling 1.5 million copies in its first month, the film represented a fitting conclusion to Moranis's time in the spotlight, as he reprised his most beloved character one final time before stepping away from live-action filmmaking altogether. Hollywood's reaction to losing one of its most reliable comedy stars was a mixture of shock and disbelief. with industry insiders struggling to understand why someone would voluntarily walk away from such massive success. Over the years, Moranis would receive countless offers to return, including opportunities to reprise his iconic roles in major franchise reboots. When the Ghostbusters franchise was revived in 2016, producers approached him about making a cameo appearance, but Moranis politely declined, explaining to The Hollywood Reporter that it simply didn't make sense to him to do just one day of shooting on something he had done 30 years earlier. His former Ghostbusters co-star Ernie Hudson later revealed that even director Ivan Reitman had personally tried to convince Moranis to return to the franchise before Reitman's death in 2022, but Moranis remained unwavering in his decision to stay retired from live-action acting. As Moranis explained his philosophy to reporters, he had become extremely selective about his choices and was happy with both the things he had said yes to and the many lucrative opportunities he had turned down, proving that sometimes the most powerful move in Hollywood is simply saying no. Where are they now? Today, at 71 years old, Rick Moranis lives the kind of quiet, unassuming life that would be completely unremarkable if it weren't for the fact that he was once one of Hollywood's biggest stars. His home is a modest apartment on New York City's Upper East Side, where he has successfully managed to blend into the fabric of Manhattan life so completely that most of his neighbors probably have no idea they're living near the man who once shrunk kids and battled ghosts on the big screen. The rare paparazzi photos that surface every few months show Moranis looking exactly like what he has chosen to become, a regular New Yorker going about his daily business. In November 2024, he was photographed taking a leisurely stroll through Manhattan, bundled up in a brown jacket and green hat to ward off the autumn chill, carrying grocery bags and wearing the kind of comfortable, practical clothing that suggests a man who values function over fashion. Just weeks later, on Christmas Eve, he was spotted again doing some last-minute holiday shopping, looking content and unhurried as he navigated the bustling city streets with the ease of someone who has truly made New York his home. What makes Moranis's current life so remarkable is how successfully he has maintained his privacy despite his enduring fame. Unlike many celebrities who retreat to gated communities or remote compounds, Moranis has chosen to hide in plain sight in one of the world's most densely populated cities. His strategy has been remarkably effective, allowing him to live as a regular citizen while occasionally being recognized by fans who, according to his own accounts, are typically very respectful when they approach him. The foundation of Moranis's comfortable lifestyle is his estimated net worth of $10 million, accumulated during his peak earning years in Hollywood. This financial cushion has allowed him the luxury of being extremely selective about work opportunities, taking on only projects that truly interest him while maintaining a standard of living that requires no compromise. His wealth means he can afford to turn down lucrative offers without worrying about paying bills, a freedom that few actors ever achieve. Perhaps most importantly, Moranis has successfully raised his two children, Mitchell and Rachel, who have now become successful adults pursuing their own careers. Rachel is a Harvard graduate and entrepreneur who co-founded an app called Stardust, while Mitchell has pursued creative interests, including some dabbling in acting, though both have largely stayed out of the public eye. The fact that his children have grown into accomplished, well-adjusted adults serves as validation of his decision to prioritize fatherhood over fame. Moranis has managed to create exactly the life he wanted, one where he can walk to the corner store without being hassled, where his biggest decisions involve what to make for dinner rather than which movie script to accept, and where his greatest achievement isn't measured in box office receipts, but in the successful raising of his family. New life, new purpose. Rather than simply disappearing into retirement, Rick Moranis discovered that stepping away from Hollywood allowed him to explore creative outlets that had always interested him, but never fit into his busy filming schedule. Without the pressure of memorizing scripts and traveling to movie sets, he found himself with the time and freedom to pursue artistic projects that were deeply personal and could be completed from the comfort of his New York home. Music became Moranis's primary creative focus during his years away from acting, revealing a talent that had been largely hidden during his movie career. In 2005, he released The Agoraphobic Cowboy, a collection of comedic country songs that showcased both his songwriting abilities and his distinctive sense of humor. The album was far more than a novelty project, featuring clever lyrics and genuine musical craftsmanship that earned Moranis a Grammy nomination in the Best Comedy Album category, proving that his artistic talents extended well beyond acting. The success of his first album led to a second musical project 8 years later, with My Mother's Brisket and Other Love Songs in 2013. This album was particularly meaningful to Moranis, as he explained that the songs fell into the category of material that comedy writers often dismissed as too Jewish for mainstream audiences. Drawing inspiration from comedy albums he had grown up listening to in the 1960s, Moranis created a collection of songs that reflected his heritage and personal experiences in ways that his movie roles never could. Beyond music, Moranis also found an outlet for his writing talents through occasional op-ed pieces for the New York Times, where he demonstrated a thoughtful and often humorous perspective on various topics. These articles revealed a more reflective side of his personality, showing that his creativity had evolved from the broad physical comedy of his film work to more subtle and contemplative forms of expression. When it came to voice acting work, Moranis was extremely selective, taking on only projects that genuinely interested him and could be completed without extensive travel. His most notable voice work during this period was for Disney's Brother Bear in 2003 and its sequel in 2006, where he reunited with his old SCTV colleague Dave Thomas to play Rut the Moose. These projects allowed him to continue working in entertainment while maintaining the family-focused lifestyle he had chosen. What made all of these creative pursuits particularly meaningful was how they represented Moranis's ability to apply his artistic talents on his own terms. Unlike the collaborative and often chaotic world of movie production, his music and writing projects could be completed at his own pace, in his own space, and according to his own creative vision. These smaller, more personal projects proved that Moranis hadn't lost his creative drive when he left Hollywood, but had simply redirected it toward work that better suited the life he wanted to live as a dedicated father and private citizen. Personal transformation. The most profound change in Rick Moranis's life wasn't losing his celebrity status or leaving behind million-dollar movie deals, but rather discovering a completely different definition of what it meant to be successful and fulfilled. In his own words, he didn't walk away from Hollywood so much as he applied all of my creativity to my home life, to my kids, to my family, transforming from a busy actor constantly rushing between film sets into a present, engaged father who prioritized creating a warm and nurturing home environment. Moranis often described the atmosphere he worked to create for his children in terms that revealed his new priorities, explaining that when Mitchell and Rachel came home from school, there was music, and there were lights on, and there were great smells coming out of the kitchen. And it was just a joyful place to be, and that's what I wanted. This simple description captures the essence of his transformation, showing how he redirected the same creative energy that once went into entertaining millions of moviegoers toward the more intimate but equally important task of making his children feel loved and secure. The philosophical shift from celebrity to single father required Moranis to completely redefine his understanding of achievement and purpose. Where he had once measured success through box office receipts, critical reviews, and industry recognition, he began to find meaning in smaller but more significant moments like helping with homework, attending school events, and simply being available when his children needed him. This wasn't just a career change, but a fundamental reimagining of what constituted a life well lived. Fatherhood also changed Moranis's perspective on happiness in ways that surprised even him. As he explained to The Hollywood Reporter, "I was working with really interesting people, wonderful people. I went from that to being at home with a couple of little kids, which is a very different lifestyle. But it was important to me." The transition from collaborating with comedy legends to dealing with the daily challenges of parenting might have seemed like a step down to outside observers. But for Moranis, it represented a move towards something more meaningful and personally satisfying. The physical and mental health benefits of his new lifestyle became evident over time, as the constant pressure and stress of maintaining a Hollywood career gave way to a more balanced and peaceful existence. Without the demands of memorizing scripts, traveling to locations, and dealing with the intense scrutiny that comes with fame, Moranis found himself able to focus on his own well-being and that of his family. Perhaps most importantly, stepping away from the entertainment industry allowed Moranis to grow as a person outside the artificial environment of celebrity culture. He discovered aspects of himself that had been overshadowed by his public persona, developing interests and relationships that had nothing to do with his former career and everything to do with becoming the kind of father and human being he truly wanted to be. Rare glimpses. For most of the past 3 decades, Rick Moranis sightings have been as rare and treasured as spotting a legendary creature in the wild, which is why his unexpected appearance in a Mint Mobile commercial with Ryan Reynolds in 2020 sent shockwaves of excitement through social media and entertainment news outlets. The commercial marked Moranis's first on-screen appearance in years, and Reynolds' genuine fanboy enthusiasm was palpable as he introduced the comedy legend by saying they had all gone too long without him. The brief commercial exchange perfectly captured Moranis's dry sense of humor, as he questioned what Reynolds wanted him to do and casually mentioned that he really needed to get a phone. When Reynolds revealed that he was simply a huge fan, Moranis's bemused reaction felt authentic and unforced, reminding audiences why they had fallen in love with his understated comedic style in the first place. Reynolds later admitted on social media that he actually wept when Moranis agreed to appear in the advertisement, demonstrating the profound respect that even current Hollywood stars have for the retired actor. Moranis's approach to public life in the digital age has been remarkably analog, maintaining virtually no social media presence and giving interviews so rarely that each one becomes a significant event for entertainment journalists. His most substantial interview in recent years came with The Hollywood Reporter in 2015, where he discussed his decision to step away from acting and his selective approach to potential projects. These rare conversations offer precious insights into his mindset and philosophy, but they occur so infrequently that fans treasure every word. The most troubling public incident in Moranis's quiet post-Hollywood life occurred in October 2020, when he was randomly attacked while taking a morning walk near Central Park. A stranger wearing an "I Love New York" t-shirt punched him in the head and knocked him to the ground before casually walking away, leaving Moranis with injuries to his head, back, and hip. The incident made national news not only because of the senseless nature of the attack, but also because it reminded the public how beloved Moranis remains, with celebrities like Chris Evans expressing outrage on social media and demanding that the attacker be found. More recently, paparazzi photos from November and December 2024 have shown Moranis looking healthy and content during his routine walks through Manhattan, bundled up against the winter weather and carrying grocery bags like any other New Yorker. These images, while mundane in content, generate significant interest precisely because they offer proof that one of comedy's most cherished figures is doing well and living peacefully. The public reaction to any Moranis appearance or sighting consistently demonstrates the enduring affection audiences have for him, With social media posts about his rare appearances generating thousands of likes and comments from fans, expressing joy at seeing him again, and respect for his choice to prioritize family over fame. No regrets. When Rick Moranis declared to The Hollywood Reporter in 2015 that he had absolutely no regrets whatsoever, and that his life is wonderful, he wasn't just making a polite statement for the press, but expressing a genuine contentment that comes from knowing he made the right choice at the right time. Looking back on his decision to step away from Hollywood at the peak of his career, Moranis has consistently maintained that he feels no sense of loss or missed opportunity, but rather a deep satisfaction with the path he chose. Moranis has always understood that his story captured public attention precisely because of the dramatic nature of his choice, explaining that his decision to become a stay-at-home dad wouldn't have meant as much to people if I had had a very simple kind of make-a-living existence. But because I came from celebrity and fame, and what was the peak of a career, that was intriguing to people. This self-awareness shows how clearly he recognizes the unusual nature of his decision in a culture that typically equates success with continued visibility and ever-increasing fame. His perspective on modern celebrity culture reflects someone who experienced the entertainment industry during a different era and chose to step away before social media and constant connectivity made privacy nearly impossible. Moranis has remained deliberately disconnected from the digital aspects of fame, maintaining no significant social media presence and avoiding the kind of constant self-promotion that has become standard for contemporary celebrities. This distance has allowed him to observe the changes in Hollywood from the outside, though he rarely offers criticism of how the industry has evolved. When asked about missing the entertainment business, Moranis has been refreshingly honest about finding fulfillment in his post-Hollywood life. He has explained that he still receives occasional queries about film or television roles and remains open to projects that genuinely interest him, but he's become extremely selective and comfortable with his ability to say no to opportunities that don't align with his priorities. The most significant indication that Moranis might be ready to dip his toe back into the entertainment waters came with the announcement that he will reprise his role as Dark Helmet in the upcoming Spaceballs sequel scheduled for 2027. This project represents his first live-action film role since 1997 and suggests that after nearly 3 decades away, he may have found a project compelling enough to bring him back to the big screen. Moranis's lasting legacy extends far beyond his memorable movie roles to encompass something much more valuable: proof that it's possible to walk away from enormous success and find happiness in simpler pursuits. His story serves as a powerful reminder that there are different ways to measure a life well lived, and that sometimes the most courageous choice is to prioritize what truly matters over what others expect you to want.